Like and subscribe to Sinister Shadow Studio, The Forgotten Passage. I had always been drawn to the macabre. As an urban explorer, my weekends were spent delving into the hidden corners of my city, unearthing forgotten buildings and long-abandoned sites. So when I heard about the old catacombs under St. Vincent's Church, I knew I had to explore them. It was an opportunity too tantalizing to resist. The catacombs were rumored to be a maze of ancient tunnels and forgotten chambers, sealed off decades ago due to unexplained disappearances. But curiosity got the better of me. Equipped with a flashlight, a rope, and a detailed sketch I had found in the archives, I set off on a moonless night, determined to uncover the secrets buried beneath. The entrance to the catacombs was hidden behind a heavy wooden door in the church's basement. I forced it open with a creak, revealing a dark, narrow staircase descending into the earth. As I stepped into the abyss, the air grew colder, and the scent of damp stone and decay filled my nostrils. The flashlight's beam cut through the darkness, revealing walls lined with skulls and bones, carefully arranged in morbid patterns. I followed the map, my footsteps echoing eerily through the tunnels. The deeper I went, the more oppressive the silence became, broken only by the occasional drip of water. After what felt like hours of navigating the labyrinth, I came across a passage not marked on my map. It was narrower than the others, and the air that wafted from it was stale and cold. Something about it felt wrong, but my curiosity pushed me forward. As I squeezed through the tight space, I felt the walls almost pressing in on me. I emerged into a large chamber, unlike anything I had seen in the catacombs so far. The walls were covered in strange, almost alien carvings that seemed to writhe and move in the flickering light. In the center of the room stood a stone pedestal, upon which rested a dusty, ancient tome. Against my better judgment, I approached the pedestal. The book was bound in cracked leather, its pages yellowed with age. As I opened it, a chill ran down my spine. The text was written in an unfamiliar language, but the drawings, depictions of rituals and dark figures, sent a shiver through me. Suddenly, the ground beneath me trembled, and a low rumbling noise filled the chamber. I stumbled backward, dropping the book. The carvings on the walls seemed to come alive, twisting and writhing as if in agony. A shadow moved at the edge of my vision, and the air grew even colder. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice echoing back at me. There was no response, but the sense of being watched was overwhelming. I picked up my flashlight and backed away, only to find the passage I had come through had vanished, replaced by a solid wall of stone. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped. The rumbling grew louder, and the shadows in the chamber seemed to grow, taking on vaguely human shapes. My flashlight flickered, and in that brief moment of darkness, I felt a cold hand brush against my shoulder. I spun around, but there was nothing there. Heart pounding, I searched for another exit. I found a narrow tunnel at the far end of the chamber, partially hidden by a collapsed section of wall. I squeezed through, the stone scraping against my skin. The tunnel was tighter than before, and the air was thick with dust and decay. I crawled for what felt like miles, my flashlight barely illuminating the way. The whispers started then, soft at first but growing louder, more insistent. They spoke in that same unfamiliar language, filling my mind with images of darkness and despair. I tried to block them out, but they burrowed deep into my thoughts, driving me to the edge of madness. Finally, the tunnel opened into another chamber, smaller and more claustrophobic than the last. In the center stood a stone sarcophagus, its lid slightly ajar. The whispers grew louder, urging me to open it, to see what lay within. I fought the impulse, but my hands moved of their own accord, pushing the heavy lid aside. Inside, a desiccated corpse lay wrapped in tattered ancient robes. Its eyes, though sunken and lifeless, seemed to follow me. Clutched in its bony hands was a small, intricately carved box. As I reached for it, the whispers rose to a fever pitch, screaming in my mind. With trembling hands, I opened the box. Inside was a small obsidian amulet, its surface etched with the same writhing symbols as the walls. The moment I touched it, a searing pain shot through my body, and the chamber was plunged into darkness. The whispers became screams, and the shadows closed in, wrapping around me like a shroud. I don't know how long I lay there, lost in the darkness, tormented by the screams of the damned. When I finally awoke, I was back in the church basement, the wooden door to the catacombs sealed shut behind me. The amulet was gone, but the pain and the whispers remained, echoing in the back of my mind. I tried to tell people what had happened, but no one believed me. They said I must have gotten lost and panicked, that my mind had played tricks on me. But I know the truth. The catacombs had awakened something ancient and malevolent, and it had marked me. Every night the whispers return, growing louder, more insistent. I see shadows moving in the corners of my vision, and the air grows colder with each passing day. I know it's only a matter of time before they come for me, to drag me back into the darkness from which I escaped. If you find this journal, heed my warning. Stay away from the catacombs beneath St. Vincent's Church. Some secrets are meant to remain buried, and some doors should never be opened. Echoes of the damned. The catacombs beneath our town were the stuff of legend. They were a maze of forgotten tunnels, dug centuries ago for reasons lost to time. My friends and I had always been drawn to the forbidden, and exploring the catacombs was the ultimate thrill. We had planned this trip for months, gathering maps and gear, each of us secretly hoping for a taste of real danger. On a cold, moonless night, we gathered at the entrance. There were 4 of us. Ethan, the fearless leader. Sarah, his girlfriend, always calm and composed. Jake, the skeptic who never believed in anything supernatural. And me, Mike, the one who documented everything. We squeezed through the rusty gate, our flashlights cutting through the thick darkness that enveloped us. The catacombs were damp and musty, the air thick with the scent of earth and decay. Our footsteps echoed off the stone walls as we ventured deeper. We had a map, but it was old and unreliable, a relic from a time when the catacombs were still in use. Ethan led the way, his confidence unwavering, as we navigated the twisting tunnels. It wasn't long before we found the first signs of trouble. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, their meanings unknown. They seemed to pulse with an eerie light, casting shadows that danced and writhed. Sarah took pictures while I recorded our progress, narrating our discoveries with a mix of excitement and unease. "Probably just some old graffiti," Jake said, his voice echoing in the narrow passage. "Nothing to worry about." But I wasn't so sure. There was something unsettling about those symbols, something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. As we moved deeper, the air grew colder, our breaths visible in the flashlight beams. We pressed on, drawn by a mix of curiosity and a growing sense of dread. We reached a large chamber, the ceiling lost in darkness. In the center stood a stone altar, covered in dust and cobwebs. More symbols were carved into its surface, and bones littered the floor. Human bones. "This is insane," Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "We should leave." "Not yet," Ethan insisted. "We've come this far. Let's see what else we can find." Reluctantly, we agreed. Ethan approached the altar, brushing away the dust to reveal more carvings. As he did, a low rumbling noise echoed through the chamber. The ground beneath us trembled, and the air grew even colder. "What the hell was that?" Jake asked, his skepticism giving way to fear. "I don't know," Ethan replied, his bravado faltering. "Maybe an earthquake." But deep down, we all knew it was something else. Something ancient and malevolent. The rumbling grew louder, and the walls seemed to close in around us. Our flashlights flickered, and in the darkness we heard whispers, faint at first, but growing louder, more insistent. "Let's get out of here," I said, my voice shaking. "Now." We turned to leave, but the tunnel we had come through was gone, replaced by solid stone. Panic set in as we searched for another way out, the whispers growing louder, more frenzied. The catacombs seemed to shift around us, the passages twisting and turning in ways that defied logic. "We're trapped," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," Ethan said, his determination turning to desperation. There has to be a way out. We stumbled through the darkness, the whispers following us, taunting us. Our flashlights flickered again, and in their brief, sputtering light, we saw shadows moving, figures darting just beyond the edge of vision. The air grew colder still, and a sense of impending doom settled over us. "This isn't real," Jake muttered, more to himself than to us. It can't be real. But it was. The catacombs had come alive and they were hungry. We found ourselves back in the chamber with the altar, though we had taken a different path. The whispers were deafening now, a chorus of voices filled with pain and rage. "Why are they doing this?" Sarah cried, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know," Ethan replied, his voice hollow. "But we have to find a way out." We huddled together, trying to make sense of our situation. The symbols on the walls seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and the shadows grew bolder, creeping closer. The whispers became screams, the voices of the damned echoing through the chamber. Then, the ground beneath the altar split open, revealing a dark, yawning void. From it, a figure emerged, tall and cloaked in shadow. Its eyes glowed with a sickly green light, and its presence filled the chamber with an overwhelming sense of dread. "Leave this place," it intoned, its voice a cacophony of the whispers. "You do not belong here." "We're trying," Ethan said, his voice trembling. "We're trying to leave." "Too late," the figure replied. "You have awakened the darkness. Now you must pay the price." The ground shook violently, and the chamber began to collapse. We ran, desperate to escape the falling debris. The catacombs seemed to shift again, guiding us towards an unknown destination. The figure followed, its eyes glowing in the darkness, a relentless predator. We stumbled into another chamber, this one filled with ancient, crumbling statues. The air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. The figure was right behind us, its whispers filling our minds with terror. "There!" Jake shouted, pointing to a narrow passageway. "Go!" We squeezed through the passage, the walls closing in around us. The whispers grew fainter, but the sense of dread remained. We emerged into a tunnel that looked familiar, but we didn't dare slow down. We ran until our lungs burned, until our legs gave out, and finally, we saw the faint light of the entrance. We burst out of the catacombs, gasping for air, collapsing on the ground. The whispers were gone, but their echoes remained, a haunting reminder of what we had awakened. We never spoke of what happened that night, each of us haunted by our own memories, our own nightmares. The catacombs still call to me sometimes, their whispers echoing in the depths of my mind. I know better than to answer, but the temptation is always there. The darkness is always waiting, hungry for more souls to claim. Descent into darkness. The city of Paris has always held a strange allure for me. Its history, its beauty, and its secrets called to me like a siren song. But nothing intrigued me more than the infamous catacombs, the labyrinthine ossuary that lies beneath the city's streets. I was drawn to their darkness, compelled to explore the hidden depths that most people avoid. I had made arrangements to meet my guide, a local historian named Jacques, at a small cafe near the catacombs entrance. He was a grizzled man, with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of untold stories. We exchanged few words over coffee before he led me to a nondescript doorway, hidden in plain sight. As we descended into the depths, the temperature dropped, and the air grew thick with the scent of damp stone and decay. The official tour paths were well lit and populated by the curious and the macabre-minded. But Jacques had promised me a different kind of tour, one that ventured into the forbidden areas, where the bones of over 6 million souls lay in silent, a testament to centuries of history. As we stepped off the main path, the lights faded behind us. Jacques handed me a powerful flashlight and a map, yellowed with age and covered in cryptic notations. We ventured deeper into the catacombs, our footsteps echoing through the narrow passageways. The walls were lined with skulls and femurs, meticulously arranged in patterns that were both beautiful and eerie. After what felt like hours of walking, Jacques stopped suddenly. "We are entering the uncharted territory now," he whispered, his voice barely audible in the oppressive silence. "Stay close and trust no one but me." I nodded, feeling a shiver of unease crawl up my spine. We moved forward, the darkness swallowing us whole. The air grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in around us. The flashlight beam cut through the blackness, revealing only more bones and the occasional flicker of movement at the edge of my vision. "Jacques," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Did you see that?" "See what?" he replied, not turning around. I could have sworn I saw a shadow move just beyond the light, but I dismissed it as my mind playing tricks on me. We pressed on, the passageways becoming narrower and more convoluted. The sense of direction I had tried to maintain was lost, replaced by a growing dread. Jacques led us into a small chamber, the walls covered in cryptic symbols and ancient graffiti. "This is the Chamber of the Lost," he said, his voice a mere breath. "Many who enter here never find their way out." A sudden noise behind me made me spin around, flashlight beam darting through the darkness. For a moment, I thought I saw a figure standing at the entrance, watching us. But when I blinked, it was gone. "Did you see that?" I asked Jacques again, my voice rising in panic. He turned slowly, his face pale and eyes wide with fear. "We are not alone," he said, gripping my arm tightly. "We need to leave. Now." As we turned to retrace our steps, the passageway seemed to have changed. What was once a clear path was now a maze of bones and rubble. Panic set in as we tried to navigate the labyrinth, but every turn seemed to lead us further into the catacombs' grasp. Jacques pulled out a compass, but the needle spun wildly, useless in the depths of the earth. "Something is wrong," he muttered. "The catacombs are shifting." The walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, the air growing heavier with each breath. The flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. The feeling of being watched grew stronger, and the shadows seemed to move with a will of their own. "Jacques, we have to keep moving," I urged, my voice cracking. We stumbled through the darkness, the oppressive silence broken only by our ragged breaths and the occasional scrape of bone underfoot. The sense of time was lost, each moment stretching into an eternity of fear and uncertainty. Then, without warning, Jacques screamed, a sound of pure terror that echoed through the catacombs. I turned to see him being dragged away by unseen hands, his flashlight clattering to the ground. I reached out, but it was too late. He was gone, swallowed by the darkness. Alone now, I fought to keep my composure. I picked up his flashlight, the beam weaker now but still functional. I pressed on, desperate to find a way out. The passageways twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the bowels of the earth. The walls seemed to close in, the bones pressing against me, whispering secrets of the dead. Exhaustion set in, my legs heavy and my mind foggy. I stumbled into another chamber, larger than the others. In the center stood a figure cloaked in shadows. The air grew colder, and the sense of dread intensified. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face twisted in agony, eyes hollow and black. "I am the guardian of the lost," it hissed, voice like the rustling of dry leaves. "You should not have come here." Panic surged through me as I backed away, but the walls seemed to close in, trapping me. The guardian reached out, its touch icy and painful. Visions of death and despair flooded my mind, the screams of the damned echoing in my ears. I struggled, but the guardian's grip tightened. "You will join us," it whispered, forever lost in the darkness. With a final surge of strength, I broke free and ran, the passageways a blur of bones and shadows. The guardian's laughter followed me, a chilling promise of doom. I stumbled, falling to the ground as the flashlight flickered and died. In the pitch black, I felt the walls closing in, the bones shifting and whispering. I was trapped, lost in the labyrinth with no way out. The air grew colder, and the sense of being watched grew unbearable. And then, the darkness took me. the catacombs claiming another soul.
Like our video if you enjoyed listening. Let us know in the comments what spooked you and share. Your engagement means a million. Thank you. Subscribe to Sinister Shadow Studio for more horror stories.